Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Those are good tacos, weren't they? Just wanted to thank you all for gathering today, and thankful also for those who've been sick that are well and doing better now. And you don't realize how that really puts a work on the staff and everything when that happens here. So let's all be grateful that everybody's gotten better. As we move through this interim process, what's been learned with this process at churches all over, all different denominations, is you all need to be heard, and your voices, your thoughts, because you all are the history of what's going on here. Most of you probably know, some don't. I'm in the process of moving right now from one house to just down the street, which those are horrible moves. This is my cousin that's been here for 4 days, and she's been helping me. And, you know, that's a good cousin if somebody's going to come in and do that, because she keeps us on task, because I get lost in photograph albums. And that's who you all are right now. You're that group that's sort of lost in the photograph albums of the church, trying to figure out, okay, who were we? When you're looking through all those albums and you go, oh my gosh, I forgot about them, or I didn't even remember that we did this, or, you know, oh, there's so-and-so. I looked back at one church I served at, and 1/3 of the people are gone now, they died. And so, you know, you look at all that, and that's part of the history of what is going to be moving this church forward. But there's also another history. There's a history of each one of you all that brought you here. And so I really hope to keep hearing over and over and over again your voices and your thoughts. And the vestry's meeting today, it's the July meeting. And I hope to start taking to the vestry just thoughts from you all, things that you would like for them to hear, you would like for them to know, even in, you know, if it's something very simple, but just so that you all can get these ideas and thoughts and they're not lost in some old photograph album or such. Because this is a time of organizing and kind of getting that all together before moving forward and calling a new rector. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, it's just a placeholder. No, it's not, because there's work for us to do. And the first is to really work on this heritage bit. So I'm going to ask 2 of you at each table to move to another table. I ask 2 from every table to move to another table. Do y'all make him sit over here by himself on this side? I know you. Okay, why don't you just take a few minutes to introduce yourselves and one interesting little story about you and St. Luke's. Some funny little story or something that happened, and share it with your table. So why don't y'all take 10 minutes to do that? Why don't you all join a table there?
Messages from the or they're using to tell kids where to stand or hop or sit in that stand. About my picking up stuff. So my story. So we really take people on place. My story is that I was the leader for the Christian Bible School. So I was up for so and I was dressed in character, and I dressed in a priest costume. And most people don't know that there's a restaurant. I don't have to, walk around in my outfit and look like a normal person in the restaurant. I could just go. And I was always, so happy that I never forgot to turn my right back bring it down. So Bishop Well, you know, he's like, we all have had our own moments. That's all there is. Anytime in public eye, something's gonna It's not too bad. I don't think there's a big problem. It's just too yes, it is. It's a nice little set. Look at you. I'm proud of you. What? For reigning in Rector. Yes. Today is the day of the initiation. It's baptized. Jackie. I know. So it's a new year. It's gonna be great. Oh, she's one of our nursery workers down. Her name is down. Her husband was the one. He was the one who. This was during vacation Bible school. She had to rush off to the hospital because he was admitted to ICU. She said his blood pressure was 50. And that's what she said right before he passed out. I think this is it. How can we you know, I think that's to Kurt that he recognizes his anxiety. You're lost to somewhere. Today he's having a hard time. Wondering that is true. I see it. Moisture in the paper towel. Oh, I thought you meant I was looking for a ring of fire. A ring of water. That was retrospective. But otherwise, there's some belts and they have a sound every time. Yeah.
Why don't you all try wrapping this up in about 2 minutes, but also to pick somebody at your table who can share some of the stories. So why don't you all pick one person at your table? Okay. Which table would like to volunteer to go first? Okay, the table in the front.
Well, he kind of just figured out that people really brought us. I mean, we came to the building, but people helped us stay. So, you know, stories of people coming and staying because of various
That's
reasons.
good.
Friends brought them here. The Daughters of the King meeting was here, and that made somebody stay. So we feel like it's really important. The people here are very.
Good, that's very good. I like that. Came to the building.
They came to the building and
Stay for the people. That's good. Nice job.
Thanks.
Yeah, I did well. Who's the longest member at this table? How many years?
75. 1975.
Yeah.
3 years.
And who's the newest at the table? Oh, 8.
In 02
Okay.
or 3. 02.
Okay. How about you on the back corner there?
Our table talked about new people, brand new, just less than a month. And they like the community. And then we talked about how the community at St. Luke's, when we're looking for a church, we're so welcoming, and the children were engaged and loved the church. So that helped them. And I would say that's what brought Sarah here also, is because Grace and Living love the church. So that's a huge thing. We had a funny story, I'm trying to remember it. So it was way back when, before internet was there, that there was a big storm that came through and it blew out all the windows in the sanctuary.
Oh, my goodness.
And Roland Timberlake was the priest at the time, and he called a bunch of people, and they all came to church, and he said he didn't know there was all that many Yankees who had snow shovels. The other story he shared was that Roland liked to keep a gun in his office, and he'd go out and shoot the buzzers off the seagull. That's it.
Times have changed, haven't they? Times have changed. Thank you so much, you all. Those were good. How about the middle table?
So since I'm the youngster here, everybody here has been longer than I have. I've been 16 years.
Except you got one visitor.
Well, no, she does count,
She's special. I love that story. I love most of the stories. Sure. Pretty good for you. Well, so the old story that I shared was one that's very recent. And you were here a month ago from DES. You may have seen it. They had the beginning of the little Thursday night show, all the parents came and whatnot. They had a production number up on the altar with everybody, sitting, waving their hands, yelling and doing all this stuff. Well, one of my 2 grandkids, one's 2, one's 5. Okay, so the 2-year-old decided that this was so much fun. He would, when everybody else would go sit down, and then the next time he didn't want to leave. So he was back up there, and he's just sitting up. His mother, Mordecai, his grandmother didn't know what to do. That's all. Cool, he's having fun. This is for a place for kids to go feel comfortable where they can have fun.
Oh, that's a neat story.
Yes.
And who's at your table has been coming to St. Luke's the longest? So, 28 years? And who's the newest at the table? Okay, how about you all? Who's your speaker?
I'm Austin Collins. Our table will talk about same stuff. People came for the community, had a welcoming, had an individual or group of people really welcome them to the church. Our story was about how the church supported us during the pandemic when our kids' school was closed and made a space available for us to teach the kids for a year. We had some funny stories about rodents and sacraments and reptiles. What am I missing?
I'm super happy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jury service.
Some
During
small
the
children.
Thanksgiving.
During the service. I guess we have a similar range of tenure at the church with 28 years with the dogs, maybe more, than 8 years for us.
That's a neat story about the kids and doing school here. That's great use of the buildings. Good to hear that. Well, those of you who haven't been to church yet, the gospel this morning talks about Mary and Martha. And you all remember the story about the two sisters, and the one's buzzing around doing everything, and the other's just sitting at Jesus's feet and listening. But the other two are busy. They're going around. And how we need to have a little bit of Martha and Mary in each one of us. And yet we know that some of us are better Marys and some of us are better Marthas. And that's something that we need both. And I want you all to come up with an instance at St. Luke where there was definitely a Mary and there was definitely a Martha. So each table, think about that. Can you think of an instance, an event, something that happened that there were, if it hadn't been for the Marys or hadn't been for the Martha, maybe the event wouldn't have been pulled off or such.
I'm just waving to you.
Pray for getting
Let's give her group about 2 more minutes to wrap up. Okay, let's hear from each group now. We're gonna go in reverse. Austin, let's start this table up first, okay? You all? Hello? Let's all listen, whoever's talking, okay?
So we, jumped, I guess, straight to the point and talked about how we saw Martha and Mary search process and the discernment process and how it feels like there's a lot to do. There's a lot of Martha work to organize and get done and check the box, but that it's important. And we talked about some members in the community that do a good job of every once in a while having a step back, pray about it, contemplate about it, marry about it. What else have we talked about? Yeah, when there's a need. So we talked about some of the volunteer programs and outreach programs. How sometimes there's an overwhelming need. There's a disaster, a tornado, or the backpack program at school where there's a lot to get done, but sometimes different people come together. It just seems to happen.
Thank you, very good. How about you on the middle table?
So I think one thing that we recognized was at this church, so much of what we do has heavy Martha and Mary. I don't know if that is how unique that is, but I have a hard time thinking of a big program that we've done here where there wasn't super strong prayer backing. You know? And I think one example that I had was we did a family mission in Episcopal years ago after Hurricane Katrina, and a bunch of families who were with us went and worked at a church that had been devastated by the hurricane. And we had construction engineers and all kinds of people who were in there working and rebuilding these houses, but every bit as much time was spent in worship, in prayer, in coming together as a community. And I think there were so many other examples of just, individual things that we all had sort of done and seen that were true Martha things. Before we have a lot of our this church, there's a lot of stuff that we're able to get done, but there's a huge base of people, the choir, the daughters of the king, various small groups. I mean, you name it, the youth programs that are supporting everybody with the basis of prayer. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's what makes us very successful when we set out to do something.
Very good, nice. How about you on the corner?
So the other two tables, for instance, at Vacation Bible School, there's a lot of marketing going on. But we also know that there's a lot of prayer and thoughtfulness and support that happens way before the work happens. And it's just really important to make sure you don't get so involved in the task that you don't spend the time to be in prayer and to be also community with others, partners.
Good, thank you. And last but not least,
I'm not standing up.
you're fine there.
The first thing I thought of as far as the Martha portion was several years ago when we had wildfires in Steiner Land. And we opened up to provide everything for not only the people living there, but also the firefighters and that type of thing. It was that was the first thing that popped into my mind. And the fact that we do pray a lot for people. We've got a prayer list, it's active. And to be honest, didn't even pop into my mind what we do after catastrophic events, the hurricane and things like that. That's because we just do that without it's just part of us. I didn't even think about that as that Martha part of us. The fact that we have a prayer list and we request prayers, we have places on our website for people to request their day. We've got several groups of people.
It's a good blend of the Marthas and the Marys. Uh-huh.
I was listening to I was on the Zoom call, I was running around doing hard things. But, and I don't know if anyone else in the room already mentioned this, and I'm sorry, but I thought our last search committee in particular was very balanced in terms of having, we'll have prayer support from people who are prayer warriors as members of the search committee, and then people who, you know, kind of did a lot of Episcopal's work and things like that. And that's my prayer for the next search committee and all of the other committees that are associated with this search, that we have that balance, and I think that's what we're trying to tease out here. So I'm hoping for the next time around that we can have it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. One thought I wanted to leave with you all, that oftentimes leaders can see, and leaders, I mean all of us, there's this push to regain equilibrium, but it feels sometimes like it's uncomfortable. It sort of comes at a cost, and there's a pushback. There was a, you know, I think you all know, I lived in Mexico for 22 years, and it's interesting. The orthopedic surgeon there did not believe in mercury fillings. He thought, you know, we need to get all those amalgam fillings out of our mouth because they're not good for our body. But he also believed that you just don't go to the dentist one day and say, okay, pull them all out. He says, because that will throw your body into a tailspin, because that, and all of a sudden that mercury is all coming out at once. So his theory was take one out and then wait 3 or 4 months, and then he would take it, and the dentist would take another one out. And that gave time for the body to adjust to this change in chemical balance. And that's kind of what we're doing. You know, we're trying not to just yank everything out all at once from everybody, but to bring some changes. And frankly, I really try not to do any change just for the sake of change, but change for the sake of bringing us back to some common central zero in the middle, a neutral center, so that when your new rector comes in, you all are kind of here in this place to begin with, whichever way it is, to, you know, because every church is a little bit different, but that way you're starting from kind of a neutral center, you know, with this new rector. So that's where we're at right now. We're kind of taking it one tooth out at a time, and you know, looking at so that the system, the whole community here, does not get completely thrown. Does that make a little sense to you? The main thing is to keep hearing your voices. You know, in a little while, we're going to be coming into a stewardship season, and it's a time for your voices to really be heard. We talk about how much we're signing up to offering in our pledge and such, but right now, what's very important too is to pledge your voice, just like what you all did this morning. And so I thank you all for your time and for doing that. And I was going to have us close with the Lord's Prayer today. If you all wouldn't mind standing, if you can, all sit together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.